The Democrats have acted like just elect us and then trust us. People don't even know. And that's why too many Americans don't feel like the Democratic Party has their back.
Yeah, that's exactly why. Marianne Williamson nailing it. She wants more power. And welcome to Friday on the Chris Plant Show. It's Michael Pelka in for Mr. Plant on his vacation. Friday, Luya to you. We are trying to get to all of the news, and there is a mountain of it, as it seems every day. And it's also the Woke Olympics Awards as we look back on 2024, the last Friday of 2024, and we're looking at some of the woke things that happened. And you're welcome to share your nominations for the Woke Olympics at the social media connections or just by ringing us at 888-630-9625, 888-630-9625. Marianne Williamson, interesting character, is she not? She is that, I guess, spiritual advisor to Oprah at one point. But she's also made a small fortune and now thinks that she has the secrets to all of our lives. And she wants to head up the DNC. Marianne Williamson is out there telling everybody that she has the knowledge, that she should be the leader of the DNC. She was on ABC News yesterday talking about it and answering questions about it.
People are not stupid. Democrats understand that the Democratic Party is a tarnished brand, that the way things have been going didn't work. And so it's time to open this thing up. The suppression of any voices other than the establishment chosen internal inside the club people who are going to do everything the same way, the way they do it no matter what. If you want to continue the trajectory of decline, then you continue with that.
Marianne Williamson sounding like a little scorched. She is. Any of the voices that are outside of the system that have been silenced. Gee, who would that be? Is there anyone you would like to mention, Marianne, who you think was maybe suppressed or because they weren't inside, that they had their voices shut down?
Right now, the people who are running for the DNC chair are talking about a 20th century political toolkit. They're talking about administrative expertise and function, which is extremely important, whether it has to do with data analysis, fifth state strategy, donor base, whether it has to do with fundraising. All those things are important, but they're not enough.
Yeah, well, I think they found that out November 5th. They found out all that old school thinking was not enough. She talked about this makes me laugh. I know I shouldn't, but she talked about what it was going to take to beat Trump.
If we're going to actually create a political phenomenon that can match MAGA, remember, President-elect Trump has created this collective adrenaline rush with a profound emotional and psychological hold on masses of American people. Not only has he drawn masses to him, he has drawn masses away from us.
Well, yes, and it's not from some kind of hocus pocus. It's from simple common sense, which is, I think, thank God, what the Democrats missed.
We have a very frayed bond of affection with millions of Americans, particularly working people in the United States. We have to address the problem on that level, on the level of the heart and the level of the mind. People aren't feeling it about Democrats anymore, at least not enough of them to make for the kind of victory that we need in 26 and 28.
Well, it's interesting.
Interesting. It's very interesting. And I went on to check out what Marianne Williamson's speech to the masses was all about, because she made a point of making this big announcement yesterday. Right about this time yesterday, she came out to make this announcement, and she had herself sitting in front of a bookcase, not in front of the typical room with American flags draped around you and you're at a podium. She's just sitting in front of her bookcase, I guess, in her office. And it felt like one of those Bob Ross painting lessons on the PBS.
On January 20th, 2025, President-elect Trump will once again be president of the United States, plus Republicans will be in control of both the House and the Senate.
So we're going to put a tree over here, and I think we'll put some clouds up here.
For those of us who wish to be part of a passionate, fierce, but loyal opposition to what the Republicans are bringing forth in 2025 and beyond, there's a lot for us to think about. I feel that in order for the Democrats to rise like a phoenix from the ashes of our electoral defeat, we need to look at more than just the outer issues such as data analysis and field organizing and fundraising. We need to transform. In a way, we need to reinvent the Democratic Party in order to counter what MAGA is bringing to the table.
I can't unless I really need to go to sleep. And I suggest, especially if you're trying to stay awake at work, you avoid this. But that's what she reminds me of, one of those Bob Ross PBS things where he's telling us how to paint the trees. And I mean no offense to the Bob Ross fans, because a lot of people love that guy. But it just seems like this whole airy-fairy thing is not going to work. And the Democrats, they're having some internal turmoil, and I am enjoying every second of it. Every single second of it. For example, as Marianne Williamson is raising her hand to be the head of the DNC, Jen Snarky over at MSNBC, remember her? She used to be a press secretary, and now she gets paid a whole lot of money to just read the talking points memo. Jen Snarky says the Democrats missed a big opportunity recently when they overlooked AOC for a critical leadership post in the party.
House Democrats missed what I would consider a big opportunity. They passed over Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez for the top Democratic spot on the Oversight Committee. Instead, they chose Congressman Jerry Connolly, a much older member who was backed by Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi. So why does that matter? Well, I mean, this is one of the few committees in Congress that actually generates national attention or media coverage. Under Jamie Raskin, it became a critical platform for countering Republican misinformation. And while I have deep, deep respect for Speaker Pelosi, she's been on this show many times, she's fierce and nothing against Congressman Connolly at all, this felt like an obvious chance to apply some of the lessons we should have learned from the November election, right? Instead, Democrats passed over one of the youngest, most media-savvy members of Congress for a key leadership public role.
Wait a minute. One of the most media-savvy members of Congress, AOC, isn't she the one who posted the video of herself with the snoring dog or snoring life partner on Monday? Correct me if I'm wrong. She was speechifying to her little selfie cam. And in the background, we heard somebody like from the Three Stooges going, yee, beep, 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 beep. Yeah. Media savvy. Jen Snarky, I'm sorry. You're wrong on this one, lady. You missed it. Missed it pretty badly. But this is fun to watch. This is fun to see. The Democrats are splintering internally. And I'm here for every bit of it with popcorn. And speaking of with popcorn, I'm loving the nominations for the Woke Olympics. Let's get one more in here from one of you. Matt is in Arlington, Virginia. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Michael, I believe the winner of the Woke Olympics is the actual Woke Olympics of Paris 2024.
Well, that's a good one. Is there a specific event from the Olympics? I know I mentioned the boxer a little bit ago.
Remember the opening ceremonies.
I don't completely remember. Well, it was like this was like the 3-hour adventure. It was like a travelogue through Paris with
on the boats, floating down the boats, but mainly the mockery of the Last Supper.
Oh, yes. Now, they were trying to say they didn't. That's a really good point, that weird mockery of the Last Supper, and they were trying to distance themselves from that. But I think you may have nailed it. It might be the actual Olympics themselves, especially the opening ceremonies.
And it was very messy, not only the boxer, but also the sustainability, the harping on that. They had the athletes sleeping on cardboard recyclable beds.
Oh, that's right. They had beds in the Olympic Village that were cardboard, and the people were having a difficult time with them. Everything was about sustainability. And
no air conditioning, and terrible food.
Well, many of the athletes have chosen not to stay in the village, and it seems like the only athletes who do are from the nations that aren't as I guess, successful as America. Right. They were not first world countries.
So why bother?
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. The woke Olympics should be actually giving several awards to the Paris Olympics, starting with the opening ceremonies. And the dance troupe that was part of that Last Supper desecration, it featured just about everybody from every color of the LGBTQ or STView++ flag, I think, if memory serves me correctly. I don't want to have to go back and watch it again, Matt. I'll get PTSD. I'll be up all night thinking about it.
All right. Well, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. That's a good nomination all around. It wasn't just the boxer who was the man pretending to be a woman, who's now the Associated Press has called this man pretending to be a woman the third best female athlete of the year. Really crazy stuff. Ronnie's in Austin, Texas, and calling back to something we talked about yesterday with the Mooch, Anthony Scaramucci. Ronnie, welcome to the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, what I noticed was that apparently the Mooch is saying that the Democrat Party could harm Elon financially. And what I was noticing is that the Milky Way galaxy has 400 billion stars, and Elon Musk is estimated to now have $454 billion. So
that's a very good comparison. Elon Musk has more dollars than the galaxy has stars.
Yes, and then the Andromeda galaxy is estimated to have 1 trillion stars, and a lot of financial experts are saying that Elon Musk is going to reach a net worth of $1 trillion.
Well, I think he wants to get there. That certainly is an astounding number, and it's only converted to actual money if he cashes in everything. But he certainly doesn't appear to be in any danger of going broke, despite what the Mooch was saying yesterday. And the Mooch, for people who missed it, was on with Wolf Blitzer, kind of hinting that Elon Musk should maybe back down on the gas pedal here on the politics. See? You're playing in a pool that you've never been swimming in, mister. You may not know how deep it is or what's at the bottom. It really felt like it was a threat to me, or am I reading that wrong?
I think he might deserve the Woke Olympics Award or something like that. He really has Trump derangement syndrome.
He does have Trump derangement syndrome. I don't know if he's woke or just misguided. I think the guy who converted 9 days in the White House into almost 9 years on television, he's managed to keep the attention of the left side of the mainstream media. But as long as you spout anti-Trump stuff, and you say you're a Republican, MSNBC and CNN will put you on. They might even give you a show if you're willing to do that.
I had the idea we might try to get rid of the now obsolete slogans that are in the NFL end zones. I kind of thought of some slogans on my own.
The NFL was a regular winner during the last couple of years of Woke Olympics Awards for some of the slogans on the backs of the helmets and in the end zones. I think we have killed the kneeling during the anthem. That seems to have gone away. But you're right, there still are some end zones that have some messages in them. And that might be a project for the coming year. We might want the NFL to just, can you stop it and get back to playing football? And let's
how about having no tax on tips? Put that in the end zone.
If Donald Trump could, I'm sure he would put that in the end zones. No tax on tips and make America great again. Excellent suggestion, Ronnie, coming from the People's Republic of Austin, Texas as well. We certainly appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Have a great new year. It is Michael Pelka. I'm in for Chris Plant. Join the conversation. 888-630-9625. 888-630-9625. The Chris Plant Show.
You're listening to The Chris Plant Show.
It is The Chris Plant Show. Mike Opelka in for my friend Chris Plant. And if you've listened to me in the past, if you listen to any of the shows I've done or podcasts I've done, you know that I do like to look back and see what happened on this day back in the day because it teaches us things. History is a great teacher. And, for example, on this day in 1932, the great Radio City Music Hall opened in New York City. It's a remarkable place, still operating, still kind of cool. Some of the old remnants are still there when you look at not just the stage, but like the old water fountains are still there. And you're instantly transported back to the 30s. In 1934, the Shah of Persia became the Shah of Iran because he changed the name of the country from Persia to Iran. It's kind of an interesting little bit of history. But it was on this day in 1983 that America saw what leadership was about in the White House. It was on this day that President Ronald Reagan, took responsibility for the lack of security in Beirut, which led to the deaths of American Marines in the bombing of Beirut, of the barracks in Beirut. Ronald Reagan took full responsibility for that tragedy. And why do I bring that up today? Because the current occupant of the White House is not the kind of president that Ronald Reagan was. The current occupant of the White House, of course, I'm talking about Joe Biden, who's currently on vacation. Well, he didn't take responsibility when he should have, and Scott Jennings brought it up on CNN last night.
I mean, he should have never run for re-election. Mike is exactly right. When he got asked about regrets, the fact that he didn't say, I regret that 13 American service members lost their lives in Afghanistan, to me, that he can't muster the courage to say that now is a disgrace. Beyond that, he's leaving office in disgrace. I mean, you get less than 20% of the American people now that think the country is on the right track. That's a lower number than it even was on Election Day. And what's happened since Election Day? He pardoned his son, Hunter. He commuted the sentences of a bunch of evil killer thugs on federal death row. Not all of them, just the ones that he wanted to. Didn't even make a principled stand on that. And then he went on vacation, which is...
Yeah. Stark difference between Ronald Reagan and Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. Well done, Scott Jennings. I'm stunned that CNN allows you to keep speaking on the network, but I'm also glad that you're getting your points out there. It's Opelka in for Plant on the Chris Plant Show.
This is the Chris Plant Show.
Show. Michael Pelka in for the vacationing Chris Plant on this final Friday of 2024. We are starting to put together for next week some of the best and worst and dumbest moments of the year, and we're going to have some fun as we look back on the campaign victory, of course, and we remember the newsworthy stories, so you have to be here next week as well. Today, we're having a little fun with the Woke Olympics and nominating people for Woke Olympics awards. More to come. But I also have some discussions about where we're going now and the big news stories of the day. Yesterday, we told you, and I think we're about a day ahead of the mainstream media. We told you that the plane that went down, the Azerbaijani airline that went down in Kazakhstan, appeared to have been shot out of the sky. And Russia initially said, no, it was bird. It was bird hit the plane. No, now we're seeing even more video, including there was an incredible video from a man who apparently survived. He was in the tail section that broke away and avoided the explosion and the flames, and that was where the 29 people who survived happened to be sitting. It just so random and miraculous, but this guy's video shows the fuselage of the plane, the tail section, which appears to have been hit many times, which will, according to aviation experts, disrupt the avionics, making it impossible for that plane to fly as it is supposed to fly, which explains the troubles the pilot had as he was attempting to bring it in. That's a horrible story, and Russia's going to face certainly a mountain of criticism and some kind of retribution from the world authorities. We'll see what happens. And now, as we're 23 and a half days away from Donald Trump swearing in for the second time, we're looking at the cabinet appointments, and there's going to be more focus on all of the people Donald Trump has nominated. About half of them look like they will sail through. There certainly will be some foot stomping about Pete Hegseth because the left is afraid of Pete Hegseth. There'll be some foot stomping about Tulsi Gabbard because they're still mad she broke up with the Democrats. And we'll see how that is handled with the confirmation hearings. It'll be a lot of fun to watch the confirmation hearings. And I'm hoping that the president will get all of his selections approved, which means I'm hoping the GOP will come together and act like Democrats for a couple of days, meaning they'll just vote in lockstep. The other story that's getting a lot of attention, Donald Trump has talked about changing the elections, and we talked about this for years and years and years. And now Chris and I discussed it over beers about how we get America back on track. And it seems like one of the first things all of us talk about is election day, not election month, not election season, but election day. How do we get things back to a normal position? Chris Plant reference here. Remember normal at the Chris Plant store. But how do we get back there? And election day seems to be a big thing, as well as paper ballots. Donald Trump confirming it.
We ought to go to all paper. All paper. You know, they have now watermark paper. It's incredible what you can do with paper. Right. But we go all paper, same day voting, and voter ID, a little thing like voter ID.
Yeah,
we ought to go.
A little thing like voter ID. Just a simple thing. Expect people to show up and pretend they're at the airport where they have to show an ID proving who the hell they are. Paper ballots, voter ID, election day, and now that you have the House, the Senate, and the White House, get it done. Fairly simple concept, right? Fairly simple concept. The other thing that I want to focus on, we've talked about Tom Homan, the incoming border czar. Donald Trump has chosen Homan. And here's a guy who's worked the border since he was an agent on the border, I think 40 years ago. I believe it was 40 years ago. And he comes off as a real tough guy. He comes off as there's a new sheriff in town and things are going to change. And he's even said so to the people of Chicago.
Mayor of Chicago, not a real bright guy, says Tom Homan isn't welcome in Chicago. Well, guess where Tom Homan's going to be day one? Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, he's going to be there on day one. But, you know, for all the bravado, Homan brings a real humanity to his position that I wish the left would see this and understand it. The humanity was on display yesterday when he was talking about the task that Donald Trump has assigned him to do. And it is a Herculean task. It truly is a gigantic mission. But I want to go through this because I think you understand the humanity of Tom Homan just a little bit more when you hear him go in depth.
Like President Trump gave me 3 priorities, right? He secure the border, run a deportation operation, and find these children, 340,000 missing children.
Now, nobody talks about the 340,000 missing children. Remember how the left went apoplectic over Donald Trump talking about family separation? Oh, they were separating families, the kids in cages. The cages that Obama built? Yes, okay. Yeah, we remember. But this discussion about the children, that is a gigantic number. That's a major American city, 320,000 children who they don't know where the heck they are, and God knows what they're experiencing. Now, they might be fine. There might be some that are fine. But if one of them is in a bad situation, that's on us. It's on the last administration. But Homan wants to do something about it.
It's going to be a tough job because what this administration has done. Whistleblowers from Health and Human Services are saying that many of the sponsors weren't fingerprinted and weren't properly vetted. The way we find people, like you and I, we both have a digital footprint, right? We own homes, we drive cars, we have a driver's license, we pay bills, we pay utilities. So there's a footprint out there, digital footprint for you and I. Children don't have a footprint, which means we got to count on the footprint for the adults.
So there were 320,000 children who were handed over to adults, and there are many of those people that no one required identification or that digital footprint. 320,000.
Are the unvetted sponsors. And if they're not properly vetted, if they're not properly fingerprinted, then we're starting out in a bad place. That's why we're going to bring in a lot of the civil organizations around the country, private organizations that have been working this child trafficking issue for the last several years. We're also going to count on the American people. We're going to establish a 1-800 number and ask the American people to help us out. Parents have an innate ability to see something that's not right, whether it's a child in a workplace or a child with an adult that just doesn't seem right. We're going to ask the American people to step up and take notice, see something, say something, contact us. And if one phone call out of 1,000 saves a child from sex trafficking or forced labor, then that's one life saved. So it's going to be a daunting task, but we're going to give it everything we got.
This is the side of Tom Homan that does not get shown. And he's so right when he says parents have an innate ability to see a child who is in distress, who is in the wrong situation, and their instincts tell them. And many people that don't have kids can see it too. But you see it in parents. When you're a mom or a dad, you have spidey senses that will light up when you see a child is in trouble. And Homan is so in tune to that. The guy gets a lot of heat for coming in like a herd of wet goats. But he is a tough guy with a tender heart, I believe. And I give him a lot of credit for coming in and being full of bravado, but also being open with the American people and saying, hey, you got to be part of this too. You have to step up, you parents, you moms, you dads. Because the left is always telling us, Nancy Pelosi was always saying, everything was for the children. If we just do it for the children, meaning if we just do it so I can buy another stock that I'll cash in on. But this is Homan who actually is focused on the children. And I believe if the Democrats don't get in his way, meaning the Democrat mayors of cities like New York, which I think he had a come to Jesus meeting with the mayor of New York about a week and a half ago, or the mayor of Denver, who I think is going to eventually wake up after he's been threatened with arrest. I think we're going to see some of this happen. And the mayor of Chicago, I just don't think it would be wise for Brandon to stand in front of Tom Homan, because Tom Homan's going to go through him to get to the kids. I'm just saying. More woke Olympics nominations. Indiana University. Yes, Indiana University getting a woke Olympics nomination. Why? Because they're teaching students that just your presence here at the university makes you an oppressor. You are privileged to the point of being an oppressor if you're in a college. So why don't you just close your doors? Just shut it down, because aren't you the factory that's creating that? Aren't you the problem, Indiana University? I'm just saying. Got several nominations for a Woke Olympics award we gave earlier in the show, and that is to Tim Walz. Kamala Harris's running mate, Tampon Tim, he was known as. And it was said here on this very show that if your nickname is Tampon Tim because you wanted to put tampons in the boys' bathrooms at schools throughout the state of Minnesota where you're the governor, well, you're woke, especially if you want people to pay for it. A nomination coming in here. Let's check in with Dan in North Carolina. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the Chris Plant Show. Danny, are you with me?
Dan.
There you are. Hello, Dan. Welcome.
Can you hear me okay? I said this is the first time I've ever called in to a radio station.
Well, it's about time, Dan. We've been waiting for you all this time, so thank you for joining the show.
I want to nominate this federal policy that someone who's born on land of the United States is automatic citizen. I assume you and all your listeners are aware that tens of thousands of illegal aliens have crossed the border in the last few years, and they were pregnant, and they dropped their kids here in the United States. Also, Turkey and China and some other countries, they organize whole plane loads of trips of pregnant women just to come here on a tourist visa, and then they hide out until they drop their kid, and that gives them automatic citizenship to that child, and it's just ridiculous, especially when a lot of those people don't even pay their hospital bill. You know, it's a dumb policy. It should be only legal immigrants and citizens should get citizenship if they're born here.
Yeah, this is one of those fights we're going to have because Donald Trump has said he wants to end birthright citizenship of people who come here and are granted full citizenship just because they were born here. But it's in the Constitution, so that we probably need to change the Constitution. Now, Dan, I notice you keep using these upper end medical terminologies like they dropped the kid here. I'm used to saying they delivered the child here, but you confuse me with these high tech terms. I know what you're saying. They give birth here. It's just.
May I say that Fox News, when they was talking about the tens of thousands of illegals in the last couple of years crossing the border, they was talking about that 14th Amendment. I think it was the 14th, and it says those who are under jurisdiction of the United States.
Yes.
And illegals, they're not really under jurisdiction unless they do a crime here. They belong to another country totally. And so that's the loophole. And
well, it's going to be an interesting battle because, you make the case that the citizenship should be earned through the proper channels of at least, being born here used to be a way. I was born here, so of parents that were born here, but their parents weren't necessarily born here. So, there has to be, I guess, a clearer understanding of it. And what I'm more worried about, Dan, I'm worried about the birthright citizenship and the people who are exploiting it. But what I'm more worried about is the interpretation that anyone who's in your state counts towards your congressional representation, meaning people who are citizens and people who are just there. So in the case of California, one report that we saw this week shows that X number of people moved out of California, but they have more illegals there now than have left. So California is going to make the case that they should get more congressional seats because they have more bodies. They don't have citizens, they have more bodies. And I think that in itself is a very, very troubling bit of news. The Constitution says persons counted in that district. It doesn't say citizens. And I would like to see that change to clarify that a little bit more. But that's just me. I think that needs help.
Quick?
Sorry?
Can I ask you a question right quick?
Sure.
Are you the guy that always says Tedesco at the end of the... is that you?
I say testudo.
Oh, what does that mean?
Well, it is a Latin word that means tortoise, and it's from an old Roman war maneuver that when the Romans were in war and they started coming under attack of arrows and spears, they would yell, "Testudo!" And all the soldiers would come together and put their shields up over their heads or around themselves, creating an impenetrable barrier. And Dan, that's my clarion call to all of us who are conservatives. We need to form together. And so that's why I always say testudo. But thank you for asking. All right, go and sin no more. Have a great weekend. Come back next week. It's Michael Pelkin for Chris Plant on The Chris Plant Show. We'll come back and put a bow on the show next.
This is The Chris Plant Show.
It is the Chris Plant Show, wrapping up this Friday, the final Friday of 2024. We will return next week, God willing, and wrap up the year with a look back at some of the dumbest things that happened in the world of the politics, some of the smartest things, and some things that made us laugh, at least made me laugh. I know that there are people who are now referring to Joe Biden as the president between the two Trump terms, which that's got to hurt. That's going to leave a little sting on the Biden family. They were so about reputation, and that's going to hurt. So we'll be back next week, as I said, God willing, to cover everything. There are a few other things that came to mind today that I want to make sure we carry over next week. There have been some good signs. There's a serious decline in teen drug and alcohol use. But there's always another side. What replaced it? And this thing called Zyn, which is a nicotine delivery system, a little pouch, that seems to be replacing it. I want to look into that next week. And Gen Z doesn't understand or know what money looks like. I drive my wife crazy because I carry $2 bills with me. And whenever we are in a store, I like to pay with cash. It keeps me out of credit card trouble, but I like to pay with cash. And when I use cash, I always like to throw in a $2 bill just to see the look on the face of the cashier, since most of them are Gen Z and millennials, and they look at the money, and I just don't think they know what the money is, especially because we're constantly changing our money to prevent counterfeiting. So we'll talk about that next week as well. Till next time, it's Mike Opelka reminding you, testudo, my friends, testudo.